We are going to talk about a movie.
This is gonna be a disaster.
It was one of the best movies of the year.
It's gonna go so well. Probably one of the last movies I would ever want to see in a theater.
Hello and welcome to 10 Years On. I am your host, Jacob London. Today we are looking at the films that was released on January 29th, 2010. I am joined by my usual guest of panelists, Taylor Robinson. How are you?
Look, I'm a lot better this week than I was last week, and I'll tell you why. One of these movies this week is so freaking just crazy entertaining. I had so much fun with it. And the other movie I went, why? Why are we doing this? But at least this week I had a little bit of something to balance it out. Unlike last week where it was just 3 movies that I just regretted everything after having to watch them. So that's about where I'm at right now.
Okay, that's fair.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm joined by my other panelists. Nick, how you going?
I'm very well, thank you. Look, on the theme of balance, there is definitely a very light-hearted, fun, romantic romp. And then there is one of the most bleak, depressing, gloomy, violent movies with Mel Gibson. So, I mean, take that what you will, but balance.
So just like Mel Gibson.
It's a Mel Gibson movie, yeah. So, yeah. I just filmed Mel Gibson for an hour and a half and watched it.
Peter, how are you?
I'm good. Yeah, this week was it's like we've sat through 3 weeks of things that aren't great. At least this week was the movies where I don't hate myself for watching these.
Yeah. Do you
I
think
don't know if I'm gonna watch them again anytime soon, but I didn't regret pressing play.
Do you think that's just because we're getting worn down by these movies?
Critics that are cynical? What?
So this is the first time I have ever understood the term just January sucks. Because we have to give context for why this is. January in Australia is mostly filled with Oscar films because we don't, as you can tell, we don't get a lot of these movies until much later in the year. Whereas so our January, if I'll just go back, our January in Australia it's complicated, not a terrible movie, but not a great one, but not terrible. Tooth Fairy, Up in the Air, and Brand New Day, which was an Aussie film.
Yeah.
And then a week later, you had Invictus,
Yeah.
an Oscar movie.
Oscar bait, yeah.
9.
Which, that
got
did
nominated
get
for
That got
Oscars.
nominated.
Should have been a lot more of an Oscar movie.
Yes, it should have, but still, it's not what we've dealt with.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The Toy Story re-release, which is
Yeah.
take it or leave it, and In the Loop so far, and then the ones that were released this week, which are again two. Well, one's an Oscar movie, one's just a dumb action movie.
It is interesting, though, when you say it like that, because even though it's not as much like this now in the U.S., that's kind of where that has always come from for us, because this is the stuff we used to get, just bang, 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 bang. That was our January, where it's just oh, God.
Yeah.
Are movies ever going to be good again?
And it's quite fascinating for us to then go, okay, let's go back and actually watch these in January based on a US release.
Yeah.
I get why critics hate January now.
And you've also got, because December is so known for 1 or 2 massive releases, so there's also that trickling down. We're seeing it in 2010 with Avatar that just kept on going.
Yeah.
And we had Star Wars in December and this year and Jumanji, so those movies sort of
the big tentpole movies.
so that's why January just movies that they're just we don't really care, dump them out.
Yeah. It's quite fascinating to me, but let's move on to this week's wide release films. You've already touched upon it. We have Edge of Darkness, which opened in 3,066 theaters, and When in Rome, which opened in 2,456 theaters. So we're only talking about 2 movies this week.
That shocks me to an extent that the easily marketable romantic comedy opened in less screens than the Mel Gibson thriller.
We'll get to that because the marketing for Edge of I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it at least once, where I call it Edge of Tomorrow instead of Edge of Darkness. The marketing for Edge of Darkness promoted the fact that it was Mel Gibson's return.
Yeah,
and
okay.
we'll get to that.
Fair enough.
In limited release films, we had North Face, Preacher's Kid, The Most Dangerous Man in America, Daniel Ellsberg and the Pentagon Papers, St. John of Las Vegas, Off and Running, and Falling Awake. So anyone ever heard of any of those?
No, but that giant title.
That's giving me
intrigued.
like Panic of the Disco flashbacks.
Yeah.
Like that's
Yeah.
Is that a documentary?
I'm guessing.
It sounds.
I
might source this out.
Guessing it has to be. Well, let's move on to our first one, the 2010 Kristen Bell and Josh Duhamel romantic film when I'm not even going to say the word. The romantic film When in Rome. Beth is a young, ambitious New Yorker who is completely unlucky in love. However, on a whirlwind trip to Rome, she impulsively steals some coins from a reputed fountain of love and is then aggressively pursued by a band of suitors.
well. Let's talk about this poster for a second
Yes. Poster
It's
talk.
the new...
because
Josh Duhamel can look at me like that anytime.
He's also not looking at her.
Yeah. It's like he's like, I like you, Kristen Bell, but whoever is next to you, I'm really digging her.
he's looking
That's
at
the
his
cousin.
or he's looking at his friend going, you see,
Eh?
you
Eh?
see this? That is a very I think that's a very flattering picture of Kristen Bell. I think she looks
Does
great.
do people normally bite their pinkies as a form of like?
I mean,
If Josh Duhamel was looking at me like that, I'd be like, I'll bite my pinky all the way to the bank.
yeah, yeah.
I
The
mean,
pinky bank, yeah.
I don't think so, but I'm willing to forgive it because look at her. Like, I'm fine with I'm good.
Nah, fair enough.
So.
So much glowing.
I will say though,
much
it's
Photoshop.
really
So much
it's
glowing.
it's oh god, yeah. It's really interesting because this isn't too much different from the poster we got for Leap Year. Like
Yeah.
the romantic
Yeah.
comedy ones so far are very
Yeah.
focused on
It was like if we have two people that the audiences are relatively familiar with, we don't need anything
Anything
else
else.
but just them.
Two
Because you're like
attractive
when we
people
talk
as
about
well.
it,
Let's not
Yeah.
forget.
I love that you can just make out that there's some sort of European building in
Yeah.
the background.
I didn't even
Other
see
than
that till you pointed it out
Yeah.
because I was staring at Josh Duhamel. So.
I love how you guys are staring at Josh and I'm like Kristen.
Well, no, like Christian, there's something
Well, it
off
makes
putting about a
sense for me to
smile.
stare at Josh. You should be like, we need to
No,
talk about
I'm
it.
looking at Kristen Bell and that smile. There's something like so photoshopped about the smile that it scares me a little bit. Whereas like I'm like Josh, I'm more intrigued as
Dude,
to what
if
he's
Josh,
looking at.
if he looked at
Is
me
he
like
looking at
that,
the
I'd be
building?
like, you're fucking creepy.
Yeah, I'd still take it.
All right, let's move on to this film.
Oh, yeah, we got to talk about the movie as
Yeah,
well. Right?
all right,
Sorry.
let's move
Yeah.
on to the film. Okay, I'm going to start with you because you're the one on the table that likes this movie.
Oh, I don't think that's fair.
Hey,
Okay, fair enough.
on my
Okay.
on my Letterboxd review, I wrote at least it was better than Leap Year. So I had fun with this movie. I tried to. In fairness, this is the most notes I've ever taken for a movie on this show. So I have mixed feelings, but
All right. So I had a lot of fun with this movie. I by no means am saying that this movie is great, but it's hard for me to say. I think people get confused because if I don't say a movie is great, they'll assume that I don't like it, but that's not necessarily true. I had so much fun with this movie. I think that it is so beyond ridiculous, like the storytelling decisions that it makes, the people that it very purposely casts
Yeah.
to play these extremely outrageous roles in this movie.
Stereotypical
It
casting.
just goes for it. There's the worst fake tan I've ever seen on a person in a movie that exists in this movie, where his face
Look on
is
Peter's face right now.
Oh,
like,
okay.
Will
Yeah,
Arnett.
no, I was like,
Yeah.
who? And then I was like, that's right. Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
like this movie just goes for it in every sense of the word, and it's. I don't know what to say about it just because I feel like I'm in such the minority here on this table that like anything I say you guys are going to be like just have a way to rip it apart. So I don't really know where to
that's
go
not
with
my
this.
sole intention.
Like-
But no, like I was highly entertained by this movie because of how ridiculous it was. Like, it was a level of ridiculousness that made the film work. I think it's why something like Leap Year didn't work for me, because I feel like Leap Year wasn't having as much fun as When in Rome was. I mean, we'll touch on the cameos. I think that's one of the stronger elements of the film is stereotypically casting. Look, stronger in the sense that this movie doesn't have lots of strengths, and it's little Bambi legs that are standing on one of those legs is the cameos.
Before it gets shot.
I thought Dax Shepard was fucking hilarious in this
Oh,
movie,
dude.
knowing he's Kristen Bell's wife, knowing husband, sorry. You know,
I mean,
she
actually,
wears
that's
the
probably
pants.
more
Come on,
accurate.
he made,
It's probably
yeah,
more
she
accurate.
was like, she's bringing home a lot more bacon than you, buddy.
but
She's living off those frozen money
and
right
what's
now.
what's he living off? He made chips. Oh, poor guy. But they're like, it's funny watching him be able to act like that against his wife. You know what I mean? He plays the douchebag. He's ripped. He's staring at something. Like, I was laughing at little what he does. Will Arnett is so over. I actually wrote down, I was like, is Will Arnett's accent racist? Like, I don't, like, it was too much at points. He's like, I love you. You are the only one for me. And I was like, but then the movie doubles down on its ridiculousness as it goes on. So I was like, we'll let that one pass.
But then at the end, it also pays off where it goes.
It's brilliant
Oh
payoff.
wait, what?
He was faking it.
He
the
was
whole
faking it
time,
the whole time.
which
And
is a good payoff.
I also love at the end. I just want to say that Dax is the only character that learns nothing.
yeah.
Like he's the one that's still
I
a
did.
douchebag
I
at the
did
very
laugh.
end of it.
Yeah, he was like, I'm going to help you, and I know we probably won't sleep together, but like, yeah, that's all right. I'll still have plenty of other chicks to sleep with, and I'm still sexy. The one that wigs me out the most in this movie is John Heder. There's an uncomfortable nature about his character.
So creepy and not in an enjoyable,
But-
this is
but-
funny way.
But I do like that there is at least one character like that, because if this actually happened in some wacky world, you know, at least one of them would be so creepy towards her that it's not even like.
Actually,
Yeah.
there is one scene that is creepier than John Heder, and this is what I wrote down. Danny DeVito playing cat and mouse is a beautiful nightmare. When he is chasing her around that art room, and he's like trying to go in for the kiss, and it's this short Danny DeVito being like, come here, baby. I was like, this is disgusting, but it's Danny DeVito, so some reason I find this funny.
But I, like I said, want to give it credit, because if this did happen, and even if it wasn't like this, even if it was just a bunch of men hitting on Kristen Bell, because why wouldn't you do that? Like, there would be creepy guys, not funny.
fuck yeah.
Like, it wouldn't be funny. It would just be creepy.
It'd be-
and
yeah.
you'd have to be like, oh, I'm uncomfortable, but this is, like, probably the realest element of
Yeah,
the entire
yeah.
movie.
Fair
Like,
enough.
and to me, I'd look at that and go, yeah, yep, I understand what that looks like. And if you're going to ground it in anything, like, that's to me a realistic thing to try and ground it in a little bit.
Probably maybe why it's one of the strongest points, well, for me anyway, one of the strongest points of the movie, to be fair. So, yeah.
I had a big issue with, well, like one of the big issues. Like, because, you know, she flies to Rome for 48 hours for her sister's wedding, and her sister is marrying an Italian who, as we learn at the reception, doesn't understand English.
That's right, yeah.
But then the sister is on the phone to Kristen Bell, and they're speaking in English, and he's overhearing it and understands
And giving
every
advice.
single word and giving advice.
That's how angry he is. Like, I want them to speak English.
So yeah, that's kind of like out of everything. I was watching
Yeah,
it and I
right.
was just like,
I didn't even pick
that
that
doesn't
up.
make sense at all. You're lying to me.
There's a bigger conspiracy
Yeah,
here.
There's something
I was
going
like,
on
oh,
here.
so he's just pretending to be Italian? Like, do we even know? Like, no, he is Italian in the movie. But yeah, that just like was one of those things that I went, oh, it's problematic. But,
Now you're gonna be thinking
as
about
much
it for
of the
the whole
movie is.
movie.
But I saw this 10 years ago in the cinemas on my own volition with my mother.
Oh.
And I remember like coming out of that going, that wasn't too bad. Watching it again, I was like, nope, it's
It's bad.
it's not aged well.
I'm gonna reach out to my fellow ladies out there and see if anyone else is like me. But I used to live in a house with 6 other girls when I was in school, and this was one of the movies we had on rotation, like when we had girls'
That makes
night,
sense to
just
me.
like,
But it's that perfect sort of movie. Like it's funny, it's accessible, it's ridiculous. Like it's easy to watch.
It's funny that you said that because I read something that apparently I think in Europe, there's some like TV channel that replays When in Rome like every 1 or 2 months.
Right.
It's just like a movie that
they're proud of.
but you sort of think weird because they don't really treat like
It's not
but,
in
but I
Rome.
think, but I
Yeah.
think I think that's a big part of a much bigger problem that a lot of American film criticism has is they get offended for other countries.
Yeah.
And then the other countries that it's
Right.
about are
Yeah,
like, oh,
yeah.
this is fun, this is funny.
Yeah.
And Americans are like, how dare you disrespect Rome like this?
It's
Yeah,
probably like
yeah.
the same way we watch like Crocodile Dundee or something like that. Like we know that it's making fun of Australian culture, but it's like, well, that's who we are.
My favorite example has always been The Simpsons, where
Oh,
the
dude,
Simpsons
yes.
do The Simpsons do Japan, they do Brazil,
They
and
do
there's-
London.
they do
Yeah,
do
yeah.
all these stereotypes, and there's this outrage whenever they do it. They do us, and we went, yeah, that's us.
The dollar.
They're like-
There's almost a petition to change our currency to the dollary do.
I was like, yeah, we all play knifey spoony.
We love it.
But I do want to say one of my favorite scenes in the whole movie is at the beginning where Kristen is tasked with breaking the vase.
Oh yeah.
I will. Yeah,
that was
that made
that
me.
was-
and I was like,
that
man,
was
like
funny.
her determination to break it. You're like, yep, okay, cool, yep.
I was like, this is I relate to this where I would be like, why is it just me apparently that can't break this thing when like everything about this ceremony depends on like because it's like it's a like however many pieces it breaks into is their years of happiness and she
Yeah.
like can't fucking
And then
break it.
Josh Duhamel comes in, fucking football boy,
Yeah.
just rockets that thing and just shatters everywhere. And it's just
I
like,
was slightly aroused. When I did that. I mean, he
Can we-
broke that vase.
can we? I have a question.
With many.
So he got struck by lightning
Hoping doesn't even
specifically
breathe,
on
it's
the
not-
neck. On the
Right
neck. Right? Like it wasn't like it hit the ground. Like it hit him.
But it not only did it hit him on the neck while he was mid
Well, yeah.
diving, tackling somebody else.
I fucking love that shot.
And it's
of
like
him
a
in the
0.5 second shot where they flash it and you're like, whoa, 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 whoa.
And it's almost like I would watch a very serious sports drama about Josh Duhamel as a football player who gets struck by lightning, and you imagine it gives him like magical powers.
Yeah, fuck yeah, I'd watch a whole spin-off about this.
Yeah, like
but it's a
when in
throwaway.
Rome,
It's such a specific
lightning.
throwaway gag. I don't.
I love it so much.
I was so
and then,
confused.
but then it saves the entire movie because
That's-
because the painting of him that they
That's right.
like comes in at the end and it's the best painting at the whole ground.
So
like, do we think that him getting struck by lightning is why, for some odd reason, he walks into poles all the
yes!
time?
Holy shit! I wrote this as well. I wrote, did I miss something? Why does he keep running into shit? And then I wrote, avoiding the pole and falling in the hole is a shit
well,
joke.
remember, he doesn't have the peripheral vision he used to have after
Okay,
he
so
got
that's-
struck.
that's
by
what I
lightning.
meant.
All right.
So,
okay.
Like, yeah, like, we'll forgive
Fair
the film
enough.
for that one.
You covered your
guys,
plot hole there.
I just want to say this is clearly the most we've enjoyed a movie
yeah.
in a while.
Yeah, for sure.
It's so ridiculous, and I agree. Like, Leap Year, I didn't enjoy because I didn't find it funny or romantic. This one, I wouldn't say this is like, clever humor.
No.
But I think because the cast, they're just going for it. Like, they're like, we know this is dog shit.
It's zany.
But we're going to just like commit. And Kristen Bell, she is just like, she is charming beyond what charming is.
Yeah.
Like, she's so lovable even when
Dude,
Yeah.
when you place her next to the woman that plays her sister, you can tell who acts well and who does not.
Oh yeah. Now her sister was played by
Alexis.
it's Alexis D.
Yeah. Now
Yeah.
she
was in
she
Fool's
had a
Gold.
few movies around that time. Like I
Yeah.
remember her from the 2010s. I love the height difference between her and her husband. For some reason, I laughed at that. I know that's probably wasn't an intentional
It's like a
visual gag.
Kardashian thing where like a little
Yeah.
tiny one gets with like an 8 foot
A huge basketball player.
Fool's Gold she's in that.
I remember in that.
And Nick and Nora's Infinite Playlist. is
Okay,
the
and
big
I remember
one.
her from that.
Yeah, that's there.
Yeah. I mean, look, this movie
I
has
just
some
wanna say-
ridiculous shit.
I just want to say, you can, like we made the point last week when we talked about that Harrison Ford movie, you can tell when someone's a good actor when, even if the script is crap,
Yeah.
you buy into it.
Yeah.
When Kristen was talking, I did. When her sister was talking, I was like, what the fuck?
Yeah, like you.
What the fuck?
You deserve to be in this movie, sort of thing.
And Kristen Bell and Josh Duhamel working off each other, I'm like, I totally buy it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh,
absolutely.
yeah.
Yeah, I love
even though
Josh
when they're,
Duhamel.
even when they're dancing at the wedding and they've only known each other for maybe like 4 hours and they're like very close and they do like the thing where like, you know, she looks up at him because she's tiny and he's giant. And
Which
then-
is, first of all, you need that in
Yeah.
a romantic
Yeah.
comedy.
Oh,
you
yeah.
need the
Insanely,
height to,
yeah.
like, come on.
and like they have like an almost kiss and like the way that it's like framed, it's almost like we've watched an entire movie waiting
Yeah.
for this moment, but we haven't. But I'm like, it's
It's
a
done
testament
well.
to the fact that Josh Duhamel like opens his mouth and you're just like, okay.
Well, and I think that goes back to the way that you guys at least talked about Leap Year, where you guys didn't buy the chemistry there
Yeah.
at all, not
Nope.
even for a second.
No,
No.
but now
So,
I buy it. No, and I mean, like that's you're right. It's a testament to how the movie structures its romantic plot. It's
Yeah.
such a crazy plot that you want to buy into it
Yeah,
because
like
it's fun.
Yeah, because it's like it's so stupid.
it's not trying to be anything that it's not.
Yeah, like don't get us wrong. We're not talking
Like,
about like
it's-
the new classic romantic comedy in any way. Like this is a bad movie, but you watch it going, like you'll probably forget it as soon as it's
Yeah.
done. But while you're watching it, you're like, I'm entertained just because this is so batshit crazy. Yeah.
Speaking of batshit crazy, what are that fucking night vision goggle restaurant?
Oh,
Or
dude.
the
that
dark
was
restaurant.
so fucking LA. It's not even funny.
See,
Like,
that doesn't surprise me in the slightest. Like, I could feel that would be a real thing, and that is weird.
Like, that scene is just, like, you want, like you said, batshit crazy. That's, like, the fact that he's like, you know what? This is the perfect date
Yeah.
idea.
And
We're
like-
gonna do this.
And like, I know it was kind of one of those things, like it's not really that funny, but Kristen Schaal, who stars in My Spy, so she's great for January movies. How she's like the, you know, the wacky waitress, and she's like standing there the whole time.
Yeah.
So when they're like talking shit about her, she's like, I'm right here. And I'm like, that's kind of funny because
I thought that scene was funny, and I think Josh Duhamel and Kristen Bell sell it really well when they're trying to walk around the restaurant
Yeah.
and bump into everyone. They're like looking up, like they can't see anything and shit. Like I
and like
found
he like
it pretty funny.
yanks her chair, and she's like,
Yeah.
oh, you've got a gentleman here. Like,
And then they all rock up. They all rock up with all the cameos in night vision goggles,
Dude,
and they're
it's
all
It makes
trying to
no
grab-
sense.
guys, this is why I love this movie, just because it's like, you know what? We're gonna do this, okay? Like,
Can-
we're not gonna halfway do this.
No.
Jacob's just
I was
like,
gonna say-
I'm the odd man out here.
We have been the only three talking about this, and poor Jacob's just been sitting
please,
there.
Please give us your opinion.
Retort.
Fucking hated this movie. I fucking hated every minute of it.
We were sitting there watching this movie, and about every 10 minutes, he would just be like, "What the fuck?"
Like, is it less painful for me to like, gouge out my eyeballs?
Yeah. You're weighing
And
up his options.
every time he would make a comment, I'd be like, "This is what you get for all of the other movies you've made me watch so far." Like, I'm allowed to be the one that
How's your leap year now? motherfucker?
I just like I'm enjoying this because it seems like for the most part I'm gonna be the one that has the least amount of movies I enjoy. So when one comes along where I'm like, you know what?
And you're not
Yeah.
alone this week.
I know.
No,
I was
I-
so scared that it was gonna be leap year all over again, and I was
enjoyed
gonna
it.
be like, God damn it.
I enjoyed it for how crazy it was. And it's also a peak 2010 film because we've got Matchbox 20 in the soundtrack.
Yes. Dude, that freaking car scene
Yes.
where they're in the
The
clown
little
car.
mini European car. I actually giggled when the car got into the elevator. When it just fits in, I went,
I know the other peak 2010 song you're going to mention,
is Starstruck by 303.
Dude.
featuring
Katy Perry.
Can't trust no hoe. Never get that hoe. Whatever the song, it's awful. And as soon as it plays that opening scene, I went, I actually went at that point. I was like, I'm not going to enjoy this movie because I fucking hate 303 with passion. That I was like,
remember 303?
remember? Yeah, I messaged us like, guys, there's 303s in this movie.
Dude, as soon as we started watching it, I was like, oh fuck, I forgot
Yeah.
that's how this movie opens. But like, I'm so
Hey,
into it.
It picks it up.
Oh, dude.
And then we get a song and dance montage during the credits.
With every character.
Except I love that Angelica Houston is the only one
Yeah.
smart enough to be like, I'm not dancing in this shit.
I'm not dancing on a
I'm
green
Angelica
screen.
Houston, damn it.
How great's that? That, like, you know, they've finished, they've wrapped the movie, and then they've gone, hey guys, can you just come back for like 4 more hours? It's like, oh, we gotta do some reshoots. Like, no, we're gonna film a whole, just you guys in a circle dancing, because it's how all, and I'd love to say all 2010 romantic comedies end, but I saw Like a Boss the other day, and it also ends with a dance/musical number. So,
It does too.
yeah, so they haven't got rid of that trope yet, unfortunately. 10 years.
But I think it's also
Later.
because it's like, it's their wedding. People dance at weddings.
But it's not even at the wedding. Like it's Kristen Bell dancing. It's Josh. It's not their characters. Like
No,
you can
it's
tell.
them
It's like
dancing.
them there. Like, oh, we're all
Yeah.
friends and Pedro's in this movie.
Yeah!
From Napoleon Dynamite, and he's also
Fuck
John
knows
Hughes' friend.
why.
I feel like he was actually just added in every shot.
because Napoleon Dynamite was a movie that I did not respond to.
Right.
And John Heder is someone I am very glad hasn't maintained.
Not
a
even
career.
Blades of Glory.
I liked Blades of Glory,
Okay, just double
but
check.
that was more everyone
Ferrell.
else in
Yeah,
that
yeah,
movie.
fair enough. Fair enough.
But John Heder as Napoleon Dynamite can like seriously fuck right off. But anyway.
I've never understood.
Yeah.
Like I've never.
Oh,
I
understood
love
it.
it.
I do too.
I
I
it's
loved
so
that movie when it came out.
it's so quirky.
Like I think it was also like a cultural thing.
Yes.
For me at
Oh,
that
for
age,
sure.
like the people that were my age at that
Yeah.
time,
No.
it was just a thing.
Peter and I.
It's
are
alright.
brothers.
You guys are much older than us, so
Take that. Take that, boomers.
I look great for my age.
I think that's when in Rome.
Yeah, I'm good with it. I'm
covered.
done.
I mean, you
I'm
three are
cooked.
all high recommends. I'm a no.
It's like a Friday night, like watching it with your gal pals, watching it for day. Well, how else am I supposed to say that?
I'm
That's
gonna watch
literally
this with
how.
my girls. We're gonna get lit.
If you're at school and you are rooming with 6 other girls, this
And we're
is
gonna
the
get
one
turned.
movie. Or if you live in Europe
like
and they're-
$5 bottles of wine and
But see, that sounds perfect for
Yeah.
this movie. Like legit. I watched it on a Monday night at 8 p.m. and my girlfriend was sitting on the other end of the couch reading a book, and I still enjoyed it. So anyone can enjoy this movie to an
unless you're
extent.
Jacob.
Except, yeah, unless you're Jake.
And apparently your girlfriend didn't watch this with me.
Oh no. Oh, she watched bits. She'd seen it already. So
All right, on
All
that
right.
note.
On that note, let's move on to the other film that opened this week, Edge of Darkness.
God.
As homicide detective Thomas Craven investigates the death of his activist daughter, he uncovers not only her secret life, but a corporate cover-up and his government's collusion that attracts an agent tasked with cleaning up the evidence.
I have one thing I would like to say about this movie, just to kick it off, because this is kind of this is what set up how I was going to view the entire movie. So spoilers if you haven't seen this movie. It sets up a very interesting premise where his daughter all of a sudden is very sick and coughing up blood.
yeah.
And she has this very mysterious illness, it seems. And then right when you're interested in what possibly that could lead to in a storytelling format, she gets fucking bazookaed to death as she's walking out the door.
Yeah.
And you go, well, what the fuck was that set up for?
Yeah.
And at the end, you're like, okay, I guess I can give that to you. But the way
Yeah.
they set it up to me was like they gave that no room to
Like
breathe.
that could have been the movie. Like
That
they
could
had a
have
very good
been-
opportunity to make that a big part of the story, and they didn't.
And they were just like, no, we're just going to throw that away. And then later we'll kind of make you understand why maybe you should care that's how we told the story. But
Very much later. on
but
in the
like,
movie as well.
it feels like about 4 hours later, they're like,
It's a slow movie.
and this is why you should care that, oh no, like
Yeah.
the illness kind of mattered, but not like it was just it was a weird setup for a movie, and it took way too long to get going. You
Yeah.
can tell
Yeah.
that because he was also, the director was also such a big part of the TV series, that he didn't
Yes.
know how to like cut
Yeah.
out moments
Yeah.
that needed to go.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna just mention that if you don't know, this movie is based off of a BBC series that
new
is
series, yeah.
6 episodes that Martin Campbell directed,
Yes.
and I think that's its biggest problem.
And it does have that BBC mentality. Like you watch it going, this feels very, very bleak British television, and you watch it and go, oh, and you read about where it's like its origins. You're like, okay, I understand that, because it does. It feels like it's. I mean, it wasn't a super long movie. It feels very long.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's like they just didn't take the interesting bits, like the correct bits, and sort of put it together.
To me, this felt like a creator who couldn't let go of moments that he loved. That in the TV series makes sense. Like the scene of him going to the beach is an excellent example of that for me. That doesn't really need to be in this movie, but I get why he wants it in this movie because it's about something a little bit deeper. And in a TV series, that scene works. You are developing this character into someone. You've got more time. You can tell this story of a father who is grieving over the loss of his daughter, but at the same time is trying to figure out who killed her. In a movie, you kind of got to skip that. You kind of need to, or make it a lot quicker, And that's, I think, the biggest problem with this film is you can tell that Martin Campbell has a love of this story, and or an attachment at least to it, and that he can't cut things that he doesn't that he is attached to. It feels very much like a J.K. Rowling script where she's got so many ideas that she can't just cut things that she likes. And that's, I think, my biggest problem with this film.
Yeah, I would agree. Definitely agree with Taylor, is that they have the emotional investment very quick into the film. It's the daughter who's returned, and I think they do miss a chance to tell an interesting story with why is she a target for this sort of thing? Is she the target? And that's where the story goes ultimately, is was she the target, or was Mel Gibson's character the target? Mel Gibson was born to play this sort of stoic character. Like, this is very much like a role that I think he was good in. I think he could have been better, but I think that comes with a better script and better. I think he was alright.
His freaking accent.
Yeah,
Oh, no, okay.
That was god awful.
In fairness, yes, the accent is very bad.
It was so
It
distracting.
has really awful moments. So I don't remember where the movie was set. I remember the train station in the beginning, but I can't remember.
Boston.
It's
Boston.
yeah.
That makes sense, because there is times where he is so heavy on that Boston accent where I was like, is this set in Boston? I didn't know. But the biggest thing I took away from this film is that, considering it's attempting to be some form of grounded thriller, every time someone gets shot in this movie, whether it's with a shotgun or a pistol, they go flying the fuck back. And I laughed every time, because I'm like, this doesn't seem to match the tone of the movie. Like, this is action movie stuff.
Well, that's why when the daughter gets shot, I was like, she gets bazookaed
She
because she
goes-
just fucking flies.
It breaks the door.
Like-
She flies through the
Like, what the
fucking
fuck
door.
are you shooting her with that makes her fly
And
like
do you know
that?
what? If that's how they want to start the movie, and with a shotgun, I'm like, okay, that's what you got. But then people are getting shot with pistols and tapping the shoulder, and they're like flying back like they're on wires in like a huge action set piece. There's also a scene where Mel Gibson's fighting the boyfriend in the apartment, or like they're having their first standoff, and he like kicks the chair into the door, and it stops the door, and it's like a perfect kick. And I was like, that was awesome. Doesn't make sense in this movie why he has that perfect accuracy. Like, there is nothing that has shown Mel Gibson as like a superhero-esque cop that he was like.
No, all we
able
know
to-
is he's a cop.
We just
Like,
know he's a
that's-
cop. We don't know he's exactly. We don't know he's like the physical embodiment of like RoboCop. So yeah, there was some interesting choices with the action that I thought did not match the tone of this movie.
I think this film has those moments that are very. It's a film filled with great moments that just don't gel well together.
Yeah.
So the scene with the dad and the daughter, where he's remembering when he's shaving, like, that's a really nice moment in another movie. In this movie, it takes you completely out of it. I agree. Mel Gibson does give a really good performance in terms, like he does the best he can outside of the
Yeah.
accent. He is.
I
good-
believed him. Like,
yeah,
that's-
he's good in the action scenes. Like he's
yeah.
really good in the, and even in some of the emotional scenes where, because he's very cold. Like
Yes.
he once you can see there's before his daughter dies, he's pretty happy, like not happy, but like he's able to be the pre-daughter death and afterwards, and you can tell
Yeah.
there is a difference.
Yeah.
And I liked that. But again, it fell on tropes a lot, like a lot of tropes that are typical and predictable. So the partner sells him out. Like
Oh,
as soon
yeah,
as that
yeah.
that was coming, like a mile away, that was coming. A lot of other scenes, things that they just pay off that they set up that just never pay off. There's a lot about this film that just didn't work for me. But then there's a lot that did also work in terms of like the action. I thought was pretty cool.
Yeah.
There was a lot of shocks. The when what's her name dies.
She gets hit by the car.
Gets hit by the car. I was I was going. She's gonna die. Like
Yeah.
I was fully expecting her to be killed
Yeah.
somewhere, and then but
just-
it wasn't that way.
And that's a good like jump scare or like that.
Then
that
when you
shit.
think about the logistics of that, because it's like they have been like they timed that really well in
Yeah.
terms of because the
Like-
car's going so fast that
Yeah.
it's like they would have
Yeah.
had to have known when she was getting out
Yeah.
of the car, and you think there's no way they could know
No,
that. And
that's
so, like, they were
it's
sitting,
very
like, being
shock
like,
value.
Oh, she's gonna do it. Like it doesn't make any sense, but it is a great like because that whole scene you go watching it going, something's gonna happen.
yeah.
Why?
Because she
I
was, telling him everything about
Yeah.
the daughter, and you're like, oh, this isn't going to go well. What's she going to do? And then when she steps out, and it's like, boom, straight gets hit by the
Well,
car.
and then when he shoots the tire just perfectly to have the car
Have
Yeah.
it flip
flip
through.
and, like,
yeah.
yeah, it's this weird, like, really, like, mainstream action sequences in a very sort of low, like,
It's a
indie
low-key sort of,
conspiracy
yeah.
thriller. Like,
Yeah.
it's like
Yeah.
these two things that sort of don't really mesh.
It was
that well.
reminding me of State of Play, the Russell Crowe
Yeah.
movie. You know what I mean? It had, whereas I don't think that's a great movie, but at least the action and the violence in that movie felt more akin to the tone of what it was going for. Whereas we've all said it, like there is a mishmash of action feel and conspiracy thriller feel in this film that doesn't meld.
But it's good that you bring up State of Play, because State of Play is probably another good example for based on a TV series,
Yes,
based on this beloved series, but someone else did the film.
Yeah, and that's why it had a
and
different feel.
Yeah.
So I think State of Play works better as a film because
agree.
there is that element. There is that detachment. There's that, okay, I've stepped away. I can do my own thing because someone else has come in, and I think that's just what this movie was desperate for. It needed someone
Yeah.
else to come in, because you're right in terms of the action, and that comes back to me as he is like, okay, it's an action film. I have to put this action in because that's what the action is, what sets the story to go. But he hasn't adapted the action to be like, okay, here is where the action. It'd be like watching the TV series.
Yeah.
And just the action scenes in the TV series, not
There's nothing organic
character
about the way
stuff.
that the action fits with the story. Like it's almost like I'd be okay if this just kind of went, we're gonna make it a conspiracy theory thriller, and it's all gonna be very understated. It's like I'm okay with that.
yeah.
But then it's like, oh, but we'll throw in action, because I think they did hype the fact that this was Mel Gibson's first movie in eight.
Yeah,
8
so it
years
was
since
first film
Signs.
since Signs.
And he'd done
Right.
Passion of the Christ and Apocalypto directing wise, and
Yeah.
this was sort of just before we all started to like really hate Mel Gibson.
Well,
as a
it was
person.
just he had the Jewish comments had happened,
Okay.
like they had happened,
the
but it was
stuff with,
about
like the girlfriend had.
yeah. So that was
Right.
still coming, and
And you think about it, I mean, and he sort of suffered for like 10 years.
Oh yeah.
really.
Fuck yeah.
yeah. I mean, and there was also the Mel Gibson in 2010 was a very different time to now, where just because you had bad press didn't kill your career.
It
whereas
wasn't the
in now-
cancel culture we have now.
Yeah, it's like it'd be interesting to know if he said that now.
Yeah.
He would.
Yeah.
There'd be nothing.
Nothing,
He
yeah.
wouldn't. He would never be hired for any of this.
And I
stuff
feel
again.
it's kind of like I'm not like I certainly don't agree with anything that he said, but it's also a case of but I still like enjoy him as an actor.
Oh fuck yeah, yeah.
You know, it's
absolutely.
like I can't really.
And I think he's a pretty damn good director when he wants to be.
Yeah,
Like, I
but
think
you still-
Hacksaw
it
Ridge
is one of those things
I
where it's
think-
like, yeah, it's difficult to separate the two. But I'm like,
Yeah.
but watching it, I'm like, I can take you as an actor.
Yeah.
And you did a moderately good job, even though your accent was
God
sort of-
awful.
It was like a comedy skit almost.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it was
just too
not
much.
good.
Yeah.
Not good at all.
No.
Yeah, this again. Also, this movie was very violent. like
It's super
Like,
violent.
yeah, when
very
it's not,
violent.
it's not
yeah.
like consistently violent, but when it's violent, you're
Yeah.
like, well, that hit, like it hits hard.
Yeah.
Yeah. And just like, as we say, it's like cruel violence too.
Yeah.
Like the daughter getting shot, you're like,
That's
I know that we
brutal.
need that to be an emotional moment, but you're like, but you don't have to fucking like
blast
blow her away.
Yeah.
bazooka through
When
the
she
door.
was
And
when
then
she was
show
struggling
her-
to breathe,
Yeah.
like the
Oh,
sounds
yeah.
that they
That's
had her
right,
making,
yeah.
I was like, I can't.
That's
Yeah.
right.
I
That's-
can't do this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the final shootout in the mansion is all right. Like I had fun watching
Yeah.
that. Like he walks in and just like pops dudes in the head, and I was like, it's again, this doesn't make sense.
with
but-
radiation poisoning at that
Yeah.
point. Like
Oh, that's
he's
true,
like
that's
he's
right,
got
yeah.
full on radiation
that's
poisoning,
right.
and he's just
And I like it when he shoots the two main goons and then has a chance to shoot the I can't remember who the character is.
Danny Houston.
Yeah,
Yeah.
when he shoots Danny Houston. Yeah, like that. That's
Pours milk down his throat.
that's yeah.
I mean, we should say it's like radiated.
radiated milk. That's how
So
they
it's not just
poisoned
like,
her.
Have your calcium.
overdose on calcium. I hope
It's
you
like secretly
die.
helping him, like,
Yeah,
you need your bones.
Your
structure to
bones
be
are
better.
brittle. I just shot a bullet into them, and you need milk. So yeah, the final shootout is cool, but yeah, it's violent. It's a very graphically violent movie.
And you
I-
can tell we don't have much to say about the movie because we didn't comment on the poster at all.
Nah.
No,
Actually, the poster's not
talk.
that bad though. I don't think the poster's
Yeah.
that bad.
Sounds like a
he's-
gaze.
Yeah.
Like it's
Ah,
It's
look at that.
fine.
Yeah,
Like,
Steely
it's-
gaze. Oof.
Yeah.
it looks like a painting.
It's
Yeah,
a
it's-
2010 poster. Like it is an action
Yeah.
film
That's
poster.
what pretty much like what 21 Bridges decided to base their stuff off of.
Holy shit! I forgot 21 Bridges is a movie.
I do want to say though something like I tried as hard as I could to fully pay attention to this movie, but there were points where I just was like,
Couldn't.
I can't. Do
Oh, it
this.
drags. Yeah.
Yeah.
But I don't actually understand what happens when, like, how does this random cop just kill like
Yeah.
at the end where they're like in the room with the senator and the informant guy, and then
Yeah.
like what the fuck happens there?
So,
like how?
from my understanding, it was he basically developed a conscience and just went.
The
Ray
Ray
Winston,
Winston.
developed
Yeah.
a conscience
Yeah.
and went, nah, fuck all of yous. You this
Right, but then he gets shot.
because he basically gave himself up because he was
But
dying anyway.
That just doesn't make
I
like
know.
none of that
It-
scene
it-
made
It's
any
like
sense.
one of those.
to
Again-
me.
I feel like in the miniseries probably would have been done pretty well, but
Yeah.
it wrapped it up so quick in the movie.
I did. There's the one scene that I actually did really like of this idea of. Sorry, it's running out of space. We've got 15 minutes.
Okay.
This one idea that I really did like, though. There's one scene where he said, "Oh, you've killed so many people." And every single person you've killed has loved ones, has family that are going to want to investigate more. You can't just keep killing people.
No, yeah.
Like, killing doesn't fix the problems.
Yes.
Yeah. Like this
I-
is only gonna get worse.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, those sort of things where there are moments where it has a brain. The movie has a
Yeah.
brain. You go, okay, that's a really cool moment, and I wish you would develop on that. Or
Yeah.
that you've actually have put some thought into this, and then there's other moments where you go, oh, clearly you haven't.
Yeah.
Like, it's such a mixed film for me.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
All right. Well, let's move on to the box office for this week.
All right.
Number one was, again, Avatar with $31.2 million in its 7th week of release. Number two, Edge of Darkness with $17.2 in its first week of release. When in Rome opened to $12.3 million. Tooth Fairy dropped to number 4 with 9.9. Actually, no, sorry, held at number 4 with 9.9 on its second week of release. Book of Eli was number 5 with 8.9 million on its third week. Legion dropped to 6th with 7.1 million on its second week. Lovely Bones had 4.7 million on its third week of wide release, 8th week of full release. Sherlock Holmes had 4.5 on its 6th week of release. Alvin and the Chipmunks, The Squeakquel, had
Fuck,
3.9 million on its 6th week of release, and It's Complicated took the number 10 spot with $3.8 million on its 6th week of release. Extraordinary Measures and The Spy Next Door both dropped out of the top 10.
Alvin's got those legs, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like I
Fucking-
keep hearing that movie
Yeah.
pop up, and I'm like, why would you?
It's funny because Avatar doesn't shock us. We obviously now know that it made an absolute bang, two plus billion. And then it's Alvin and the Chipmunks. It always comes in. I'm like, holy shit, people. I mean, at
Like,
the
as you
point,
said,
That's
it was
the
only the second
one.
second.
There's still others
There
to
are
go.
4 more.
Yeah.
There are 3 more.
So we did,
Is there?
we did get Alvin fatigue eventually as a society, which is nice to know. But I mean, for the second film, the fact that it's holding out strong at the moment in the box office.
All right. Major news stories. Scott Pilgrim vs. the World sets its release date of August 13th
Nice.
this year, the same day as Eat, Pray, Love and The Expendables.
Ooh,
So that's going to be a fun weekend.
Wow, those are
That's
three
exciting, actually, yeah.
Very different.
yeah. Everyone had a chance to see something at the movies that weekend.
Yeah. And apparently no one went to Scott Pilgrim, but we will
so
talk
sad.
about
No,
that.
but
We will
everyone
talk
watches
about
it
that.
now.
Oh yeah, out of the 3, which one lasted?
Yeah.
Expend.
And, and in sad news, J.D. Salinger dies at 91.
Wow.
Oh, geez, 91.
Yeah,
Good inning.
we
is
lost
right, yeah.
we lost J.D. Salinger.
In 2010, wow.
Yeah. So for those of you who don't know, he wrote Catcher in the Rye, one of the most beloved books in American history.
Well, there's
Fam-
controversial books in
Yeah.
American history as well, yeah.
Very famously has never allowed anyone to adapt it. So it is one of the few books ever that they will never adapt into
Yeah.
a movie. One of John Cusack famously used to say, the worst part about growing up is I can no longer play Holden. And that was Holden was the main character, so that you can no longer play that that
So he
character in
just
an
decided
adaptation.
to make like Hot Tub Time Machine.
But yeah, it's interesting. I mean, one day will convince the estate to make it, but
You never know.
we never know. So it'll be interesting.
Netflix might shell out a fuck ton of money.
Oh
Yeah.
no, trust me. He's been offered. I think Warner's at some point offered him like $50 million, and this was back in like the 80s. Like they wanted that movie. Like it's because it will make it, especially back then. It would have been a like beloved classic at this point if someone ever made it,
someone did it
and
right.
they did it right. Like
Yeah, it's hard. Like it's hard to know though. Like
Yeah.
you don't know. Like it could be made with the best intentions and then just not
Not work
Yeah.
as a
and
movie,
then it
yeah.
would be like, this is the Catcher in the Rye that we get.
Yeah,
Like, yeah.
true. It's true. But yes, J.D. Salinger passed away at 91. And last one, Miramax closed its doors for the last time. That's the Disney-related story.
Yeah, right, okay, yeah.
I do have fond memories of watching movies. And
I do love
Yeah.
the Miramax logo
Yes.
popping up as some
I
good
mean,
movies.
it's interesting, like we look back now at Miramax and, obviously Weinstein, obviously everything. I mean, Weinstein, both the brothers obviously went on to create the Weinstein
Weinstein
Company.
Company.
So
Yeah.
that Miramax closing wasn't the end of the Weinstein.
Miramax,
Like
it
it was
was, yeah.
really just Disney no longer being involved. Again, look, Miramax have made my favorite film of all time in Good Will Hunting. They've made plenty of like beloved classics. They were the company that started the indie film. Really, like
well,
they.
you look back and or if you listen to interviews with Kevin Smith, he speaks nothing but high regard of Miramax and starting his career and things like that. So definitely a big point on the indie circuit. Yeah,
Like the 90s were huge for Miramax. Like, and I mean, then the 2010s, 2000s, sorry, just were a rough decade for them. And clearly they closed their doors and they were gone 10 years ago. And I mean, look where the Weinstein Company is now.
I think
Two
that
really
guy's gonna
bad
be
decades
okay.
back to
Let's
back.
not
Let's-
okay.
but let's not forget Miramax closed because of bad business. The
Yeah, no,
Weinstein Company had good business, just not good people.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting. And lastly, let's move on to Australian release dates. January 29th, 2010, Law Abiding Citizen opened up 15 weeks after
shit.
release.
Law Abiding
Yeah.
Citizen. Gerard Butler. You're still making the same movies.
Oh, Gerard Butler needs to fire his agent. And the other
It's
movie.
too late now. Now you just gotta like.
So, mate, grandfather has fallen.
And lastly was The Road, which opened 9 weeks after release. That's an Oscar
Oh,
movie
yeah.
with
Viggo
Aragorn.
Mortensen.
Yeah, Viggo.
Viggo Mortensen.
Yeah. So they're the big ones from that week. Guys, thank you so much. I mean, we had a really, really good
This was
long
a-
conversation
Yeah.
about When
When
in
in
Rome.
Yeah. Like, who would have thought? Like, you're sort of watching it going, When in Rome, Edge of Darkness. Edge of Darkness will win this one. I mean, it's Mel Gibson, it's bad. And then we're all just like, When in Rome is like bad, but it's so amazing. The Edge of
This
Darkness.
is all of my dreams come true.
man.
This is what you were secretly hoping like
Yes.
leap year would all be, but instead it was When
That's
in
all
Rome.
right. I'll take it for When in Rome. I'll take it where I can get it. That's fine.
That's fair. Well, guys, thank you so much for checking out this week's episode. Nick, where can the people find you online?
On Instagram at Nick's FlixFix.
Peter?
Twitter at RatedPDG and Rotten Tomatoes Peter Gray.
And Taylor, where can they find you on your own channel? Fair enough.
You're gonna do that every week, and you're gonna get the look every single week.
That is fair. Guys, you can find me at Jacob London all over on various social media websites. Until next week, where we will be reviewing. We are into another month. We are out of January next
February.
week. We're in
Woo!
February. It doesn't get much better. We have From Paris with Love, the John Travolta
Oh, it only gets better. It doesn't get
I
better.
can't wait to watch this movie again.
and Dear John with Channing Tatum.
Jesus.
Channing Tatum.
Yeah, and the one that you were mentioning last week, Frozen. The 2010 Frozen film is in limited release. So
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah,
I might watch that.
Okay.
But if you guys want to play along with us, that's what's coming up for us
That's what
next
we'll be
week.
talking about next week, guys. Until then, my name is Jacob London. This has been 10 Years On, and we will see you next time.